What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the RPO College Football Podcast, your favorite college football podcast. My name is Jerome Jones, and I'm here with none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ray Roberts. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, Jerome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Hey, we're winding down, man. Winding down. It is very, very close to college football season. I'm super excited about it. How you feeling right now, Ray?
Basically, this time next week we'll be a month away from college football starting, so I'm good.
Yeah, about 5 weeks away. We are super set. We got a lot of really good teams to check out and talk about. So we're gonna definitely do that right now. If you guys see me kind of my eyes kind of wondering, I am tracking a college athlete. I'm sorry, a high school athlete that's committing today. Um, 5-star wide receiver Mike Matthews, a guy that we know a lot from Parkview down here in Georgia. So he's committing tonight. It's going to be super exciting to see where he goes. I believe he has USC. He got Clemson. He got, I believe, Florida State and one other team that I can't remember right now that he could be committing to. So if again he should be committing anytime soon. So I will definitely be keeping my eyes out for that. So if Mike, if you see this in the future or where after you commit, congratulations to wherever you commit. So I'll definitely be dropping that as soon as I hear the word. But let's get right into it, Ray. We're gonna talk some good college football teams right now. A couple of teams that have some some solid rosters, just to say like that. So let's get right into it, Ray. We're gonna talk about the first team right now. This team is a team that is fairly okay. A little Big Ten team, and that would be Iowa. So we get right into Iowa being a 8-5 team last year, so a fairly decent season last year. Got a couple of quarterbacks. One quarterback that I know pretty well, Kate Nickmere. I already say his last name so wrong.
McNamara.
McNamara. No, McNamara. Yes,
McNamara,
a
yeah.
guy from Michigan. So again, a guy that I know pretty well. So He's coming into that team. I think he's a solid guy. Not anybody that's gonna blow the world away with, but smart guy. Plays the system the way he needs to. Um, and will get the job done. Don't turn the ball over. He's one of those quarterbacks that they always talk about. I'm trying not to, put him in that category. But Ray, what do you think about him being on the team this year?
I think he's a good functional quarterback with a team who likes to run the ball and kind of use the play fake to make plays downfield. I think he fits their offense better than he kind of fit Michigan right now. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I just think that as well as he did 2 years ago, getting Michigan in the playoffs, beating Ohio State last year or 2 years ago. I think that Michigan needed a little bit more firepower with their offense, a guy that can run a little bit as well as having a really strong arm. Not to say McNamara don't have a strong arm, but it's not like a JJ McCaffrey. JJ McCaffrey is a real athletic quarterback. As far as running and being able to throw the ball deep within that system. So I think I like him in the system though. I really do.
no, I do. I think he fits Iowa's system. And again, he fit Michigan's system okay too. But
Yeah,
like you said, I think they want a guy who's a little bit more athletic, can make plays with his feet as well as his arm. So
definitely. So let's talk about the rest of the offense, Ray. What's your overall thought of how the offense should be being ran? Because Iowa's always known for the really good offensive line, stout running game with that offensive line. So is that still be the trend for them, or you think it's going to be kind of a different look for them?
I think they're going to try to run the ball. They usually do. Kelly Johnson, their running back, is a good football player. He's a good, solid running back. And they actually one of the few teams that still use a fullback to block for those guys. So I think it's good. My thing about them more than anything else is they have a really good offensive line with a lot of good players up front there. I mean,
Yeah.
Nick Lejeune, the Jock, Bo Stevens, Logan Jones, all good football players. Their wide receivers is Nico Regini. He's a senior. He's a good, solid player, but they don't have a lot of firepower outside. It's just going to be if they can run the ball and then create plays off the run game. So
No, 100%. I definitely agree with that. Like they're gonna be a solid team that's gonna be able to run the ball. I think if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check. They got my guy also from Michigan, Eric Gall, who a tight end that we got to interview some years ago. I think is a really good player. He just got to stay a little more healthier. He's been riddled with injuries with his time at Michigan. So I think that he's a really good pass blocker, and he I think he started. Sorry, he's a really good pass catcher. He started getting better at pass blocking down the years. Something that he kind of struggled in on early on, and he said that he needed to improve on. So I see that there is improvement, but it's kind of hard to say how much he improved because of how many times he kind of got injured. And plus, Michigan's tight ends are actually pretty good. Like they were three guys stacked last year. So they lost two of them this year, so we'll see how that goes when we talk about Michigan at the end of the season. But Ray, you look like you're about to say something.
yeah, and their other tight end, Luke Lachey, is a good football player too. So I can see them playing a little bit 12 personnel.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe only have one wide receiver out there at times, and the two fullbacks and the two tight ends. Good foundation for running the ball, and you do again. Lachey's a little more athletic, where he can catch the ball and make things happen. And Iowa's known for having pretty good tight ends. So
Definitely. Yeah, we'll definitely see. So as far as the defense, right? How you feel like this defense stacks up against some of the premier players or premier offenses in this conference?
well, that's the problem. They don't stack up against Ohio State. They're not going to be great against Michigan.
Yeah,
Penn State's going to cause problems for them. But I do think their defense is sound. I
yeah,
just don't know if it's good enough to play with the big teams in the Big Ten. So,
definitely. Yes. Any players that kind of stick out to you though, right?
yeah, I like Logan Lee, their defensive tackle. Joe Evans, their defensive end. Sebastian Castro is like a hybrid lineman who does some stuff like a linebacker. He's a good football player. Cooper the John, their corner's a nice solid player. Quinn Shoot is a safety. Again, a guy who does some things. He's a strong safety. He likes to play in the box a little bit. Good football players. No matchup against most teams. Again, the better teams in the Big Ten are a little more athletic and will give them some problems. So
No, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that these guys. There's a couple of decent guys on here. But overall, I think that the team is going to be kind of not that good on defense. Is Eric Espinosa? That's his name, brother. Um,
I don't know that, to be honest with you.
Interesting. I wonder if he's related to
I'm not sure about that. I mean,
Espinosa.
I like Kirk Ferentz, their coach, though. He's a good coach.
Yeah.
And they play hard.
Hmm.
Again, against most teams, they'll play well and they'll be okay. I mean, if you look at their schedule from last year, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but they play well against most of the good solid teams. Again, they lost to Illinois in a close game.
Yeah.
But the most games where you saw where they really got beat up were like Ohio State and Michigan. So again, kind of expected, but they're the teams they got to beat though. That's the problem.
No, 100%. I agree. All right. So let's look at their schedule for this year. So like I said last year, they were 8-5. Going into this year, they're gonna be home versus Utah State to start the year. They play Iowa State very early in the season. That's actually surprising to me. Week 2.
It is usually that's the game that you see happening down the road a little bit.
Yeah, it's very
That's,
early this year. That's
that is
interesting.
weird.
But they will be in Iowa State for that game. They'll be home for versus West Michigan. They'll be at Penn. Home for the next two games versus Michigan State and Purdue. Away for Wisconsin. Home versus Minnesota. Away for Northwestern. home for Rutgers and Illinois, and then ending the season away at Nebraska. So, Ray, with that being said, what do you think? Um, how do you think they're going to fare this year?
Well, Jerome, they actually could probably be a little better than last year. They kind of lucked out. They don't play Ohio State or Michigan this year.
I just
So
realized that.
yeah, I'm like, if you look at their schedule, there are a lot of winnable games. Again, they're not as good as Penn State, and the
Yeah.
game's at Penn State, so that's gonna be a tough game for them.
Hmm.
At Wisconsin, conference game, they should beat Wisconsin. They're probably a little more talented, but again, conference game, and it's away. At Nebraska, every other game on the schedule, they can and probably will be favored to win. So you're talking about like
Yeah, I
maybe
agree.
3 losses. I think I would be surprised if they don't win at least 9 or 10 games.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Ray. It's looking kind of light. Yeah, you're right. Nebraska is maybe, Northwestern's always a tough team. We'll see how that goes with, the
It
firing
is,
of their head
it-
coach.
and it
Um,
could be, but they beat up on Northwestern last year. I remember
yeah,
watching that game. So
yeah. Wisconsin, that could be a game they can lose to.
mhm.
Penn State, I fully think Penn State's gonna win that game. I can't see them losing that game. I'm very high on Penn State this year, even though I don't want to be, but
No,
very
I
high
get
on
it.
them. They look like a really good team this year, so we'll see how that goes. But outside of that, man, there's lot of winnable games, a lot of games, a lot of winnable games.
I mean, even a
Like,
game like where you think Minnesota, what they beat Minnesota last year, but it was a tough game for them. But
yeah,
it was away. This
correct.
game this year they get to play them at home.
Yeah,
Really, I
yeah.
mean, again, except for Iowa State, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Nebraska, there are got teams that they could lose to or
Yeah,
probably won't be favored to win
and
four games.
let's be real, Ray. And to kind of interrupt what I was just saying just a little bit, Mike Matthews, number one receiver in the 2024 class, just committed to um, Tennessee. So congratulations to him. A guy, real good kid. Looking forward to seeing him play at the next level for sure, and we'll definitely be covering him with Inside the Hatches. But like I was saying, you got to really look at this team because I think arguably probably one of their best quarterbacks they had in a while, and McNamara. And again, like not saying he's a world beater, but he might make a difference in a schedule like they have. They might be looking at the like were they in the West, I believe. They might be
Yeah,
they're in the West. They might be a team that challenge for that Big Ten championship.
yeah, it would not. Again, that would not surprise me. They're a good, solid team.
Hmm.
Again, the teams that they struggle with in their conference last year, they don't play them.
Yeah.
I think it's a good season for them. I do.
Definitely. No, I agree. I agree. All right, let's move on to our next team, which will be the Cincinnati Bearcats. So, Cincinnati Bearcats ended last year 9-4, so they were a pretty solid team last year. Obviously, having that little drought from 2 years ago that they went to the playoffs, but considering how much they lost in the last 2 years to the NFL draft, they played very well, and now they got I feel like they got a solid quarterback now, and being Emory Jones, a guy that I believe he was at Florida last, um,
Arizona State.
Arizona State. Yeah, there you go, Arizona State. Solid looking quarterback. He's slated to be their starter this year. What do you think about that this offense and the
I
quarterback?
think their offense will be pretty solid. They did change coaches. They Luke Fickle left, and now they have Scott Satterfield,
Yeah,
who's a former coach at Louisville, who runs a lot of spread offense. I think that they actually maybe bring some life into their offense for the first time in a couple of years.
yeah,
I think Cincinnati was a running team, and they played 2 years ago. We know how good they were. They were very good. I mean,
correct.
it was more their defense and their offense, but their offense did enough to win them games. But I think now with getting Satterfield in, I think that's going to inject some life into their offense. I think Cincinnati's going to be a pretty good team. I do.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if they won 9 games last year. I can't see why they wouldn't win that many this year, to be honest with you. I think they're going to be a good team.
I agree. Let's talk about the running backs. Talk about how they were a more of a running team. How's this running back group looking for you?
I mean, Miles Montgomery's a sophomore. He had some decent games last year, but he has to build on that. Again,
Yeah.
they're changing running backs every year, like every other team in college football, just about.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But their offensive line, their best players got Gearhart, their center. He's the only one who is a standout. The other guys are just good workman type guys. But
Hmm.
I think I like them. I think they're going to be a good team. I do.
Definitely. What about their passing game, right? Between their receivers and tight ends, anybody kind of stand out to you in that group?
Not really. I mean, again, I think Emory Jones is going to have to make some plays for them. I
Yeah.
think that's where they're going to want that to happen. I don't see. I see like Dig Wiggins, their one receiver, is not a bad player.
Yeah.
Donovan Ollie is not a bad player, but they're nothing exceptional. They're more like possession type guys. So we'll see. I mean, I like their run game though. I think they did a good job last year running the ball. And even though Gerhardt is the only standout, he is the kind of guy who really makes both guards play better because he's very smart too. So
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's very good. Let's talk about their defense real quick, right? Anybody kind of stands out to you? I know that Jaquan Briggs is one of their bigger names on their defensive end. Overall, though, what do we think about this the defense?
they play a 3-3-5.
Hmm.
So it's again a weird type of a defense. But both
Yeah.
their ends, like you said, Juwan Briggs and Malik Venn, both seniors, both good football players.
Hmm.
The linebackers are just serviceable though,
Yeah.
and 2 of them are sophomores, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I do like Deshaun Pace and Byron Threat. They're defensive backs. I think they're good football players. I just think
Yeah.
that they need to get a good pass rush and make sure the teams don't. I like the concept of a 3-3-5. I do. But
Yeah.
that puts a lot of pressure on my guys in my secondary to help out with their runs. I'm not crazy about that usually.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's probably going to be one of the biggest things that's going to hinder them, especially against if you're going to go against some of these really good running teams. I think in their conference, I think they're fine though. But we'll see. Hey,
Hello.
so Ray had to jump off real quick, and I'm going to kind of mute him. But yeah, Cincinnati seems like a team that is going to have some success, but we'll definitely see how that goes with how the defense is. If the defense can, pick it up for them, and that's kind of how this team been the last couple of years, where the defense has been their staple. They've been the glue to them. They lost a lot of good players the last 2 years, though. So with them losing so many good players, we'll see how that kind of translate as far as being productive and getting back to what they were. But having a solid quarterback back there again, and if the defense can definitely stick up, like I said, the last 2 years, this could be a good team. So let's look at their schedule for the upcoming year, and they'll be at home versus East Kentucky. They'll be away for Pitt, home for the next 2 games versus Miami of Ohio and Oklahoma. They'll be away for BYU. They'll be home for the next 2 games versus Iowa State and Baylor. Away for Iowa State, home versus USC, away for the next 2 games versus Houston and West Virginia, and then coming back home to finish the season versus Kansas. So with that being said, Ray, with that being said, Ray, how do you think their season should fare?
I honestly think they'll probably be right around the same as last year, 9 and
Yeah,
4, or maybe 8 and 5.
Hmm.
The schedule is not hard, but it's not easy either.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a pretty it's a challenging
yeah, I
season.
mean,
It's not
at
easy,
yeah,
but I think
at Pitt, at BYU, Oklahoma is going to be a tough game for them. At Oklahoma State is a tough game. At West Virginia, the West Virginia game, the Oklahoma State game, and the BYU game. If they can win one or two of them, then they can get to 9 and 10 wins. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, we already said USC is a team that could be better in the future, but I think they can beat them. Um, Baylor, they always have a hot and cold year. That could be a game that can go either way, just because how Baylor is. Sometimes they can
Mhm.
be really good some years, and then oh, okay some other years. So we'll see how that goes. Iowa State, still, I think they're still kind of picking up the pieces. They'll be a solid team, but I don't think they're gonna beat them. Um, I don't think Iowa State's gonna beat Cincinnati. Um, I think Oklahoma's probably their toughest game of the season.
Yeah, it is. It's probably their toughest game. I mean, the best team they're going to play against is probably Oklahoma.
Yeah.
At Pitt, though, will not be an easy game for them. At BYU and at Oklahoma State. Again, if they can win a couple of those games, they'll have a really nice season.
Yeah.
But if they lose those games, then it gets to be like 8 or 9 wins, maybe.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that they can, like you say, they can come out with a very similar type of season. Um, Maybe even better. Just see how they kind of go with Emory Jones at the
Really,
helm.
you'll know after the first 5 games because if they
Yeah.
again they beat Pitt, if they could stay in it with Oklahoma or
Hmm.
beat BYU, then you're looking at a pretty good year probably.
Definitely. No, I
Yeah.
agree. So let's how about this? Um I'm gonna pose the questions for you. The better college athlete. We're gonna just keep it at college athlete. Ritter or Emory Jones?
Wow, that's weird because even though Desmond Ritter was actually faster than people think,
Yeah,
and he may be as fast, maybe even a little bit faster,
yeah,
I think Avery Jones is more athletic. He's more fluid when he moves.
correct.
He doesn't seem to be. Desmond Ritter was good, dropping back, make that read, and then like a little bit like Ryan Tannehill. He didn't make people miss, but he can run by them because he's pretty fast.
Yeah,
Ryan Tannehill was actually a good, very good comparison for Desmond Ritter. Very similar type players on the field.
yeah,
But I think Avery could be better than that. I think he's more athletic. He's not Jalen Hurts, but he's Jalen Hurts like, and he's more athletic guy. Like
yeah,
Jalen Hurts, what he does is you don't really get good shots at Jalen Hurts when he's running the ball.
correct.
He's a little bit more elusive than people think he is.
Hmm.
I think Avery Jones is the same way. He's a little more elusive than Desmond Ritter, which I mean could make for a better run game too.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
good thing about it. I mean, I think Cincinnati is going to be a good team. I
yeah.
do. I don't know if that's going to translate into 9 or 10 wins, but I think again we name the games
Hmm.
at Pitt, at BYU, at Oklahoma State, at West Virginia. If they can win 2 of those games, they may win 10 games.
Yeah, and I think it might be just a season or schedule for a first year head coach coming in to a new team.
Correct. That's
Um,
there's always that learning curve. The
right.
good thing for them is they get to play Eastern Kentucky out the gate. So
Yeah.
that's a good way to get your feet wet. That's the way. Usually, I don't like teams scheduling cupcake games like that, even though I shouldn't say they were Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But the thing I like about it is you're a new coach, a new quarterback. So we'll see how that looks, you know?
No, I 100% agree, Ray. I like what you're saying. I like what you're putting down. All right, let's go to our next team, which will be Mississippi State. So Mississippi State, the Bulldogs were 9-4, another 9-4 team, another team that again could be on the edge of being a good team. This team is going to be led by Will Rogers. He had a solid year last year. I think he had some growing pains a little bit last year as well. But I think he's going to be a solid quarterback for them. Ray, what do you think about the quarterback situation over there?
I
And
like I like Will Rogers. I think he's a good football player.
mhm,
I mean, he had a really good year last year.
Yeah, I think he started off really hot, and then he started like being okay at the end, right?
Yes, and I like obviously we probably should lead this off with saying replacing Mike Leach is not going to be easy.
Yeah,
You guys are football like a
definitely.
passing genius.
Yeah, definitely.
Replacing that guy is not going to be easy. But I do think Jack Ornhart is a good coach. I think what they did right though is they hired a defensive guy because Mississippi State's defense has been dreadful the last few years.
Yeah,
They bring in a guy who's more defensive oriented and bring in a Kevin Barbay as offensive coordinator. I think he'll run a more balanced, traditional type offense. Again, I think that maybe Mississippi State's players will be refreshed by this. Maybe. I
yeah.
mean, no one's ever going to say that replacing Mike Leach is a good thing because the guy, again, as far as offensive football, the guy's a genius. And honestly, if you talk to anybody who ever knew him, I'm not talking about media guys. I'm talking about guys that knew him, and some guys that are in the draft, like draft guys, they love Mike Leach. They'll tell you he's like one of the best guys you ever meet in your life. Funny, personable. I mean, everything good about him. But so replacing him is not going to be easy. But again, their defense has been dreadful for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, that's been the thing about it. Like what you're saying, it might be a type of season where they use the losing of Mike Leach to kind of fuel them and get them better. I mean, make them better. Like you're saying, right? This might be a wake up call for them, to step it up a little bit. It's going to be a little different for them, and there are going to be some growing pains with it. But overall, I always, and me and you always say this every year, they always have such a good roster. They always have such a good roster, but never seem to flip that switch for whatever reason. They never seem to. Well, we kind of know why. Mike Leach used to start off the year as a running team, and then all of a sudden he just throwing. So, he didn't.
Plus,
I felt like they have an identity for such a long time. Very talented team, but just always lost their identity for whatever reason.
I like the idea that they elevated Zach Arnett, who was their defensive coordinator the last few years. Yep. They won a bowl game for him last year because he coached the bowl game that they played in after he had died. So I just think it was really. I think it's a good hire. Mm-hmm. I like Barbay, their offensive coordinator they brought in. I think he's going to do a solid job. I think his offensive linemen are going to be a little bit. Maybe that's where they're like, "Ooh, I like this pushing guys around more than I like backpedaling all the time."
Yeah.
So we'll see. And their defense, I think, will be better because they'll run the ball a little bit more, if nothing else.
I agree. Speaking of the defense, how's this defense looking to you, right?
As players, I like their linebackers, Nathaniel Watson. I like Jet Johnson. I like Nathan Pickering, their senior nose guard. Mm-hmm. The other guys on the team are just guys that take up space. But again, they play another 3-3-5 defense. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why at times you can gash those teams. You block 2 guys, you get 9 yards. I mean, it's a frustrating defense. And if you have and this is why I think that Mike Leach liked this type of defense, because if you have a lead, you like this kind of defense.
Oh, yeah.
Because teams are going to try to throw against you. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have a lead and you can get gashed, then you may be in trouble. I think that really what you'll see is they'll mix up their fronts a little bit more and play some a little bit more four-man fronts or odd and evens fronts, I should say.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that this team's gonna probably thrive off their secondary, right? I think they got some really good dudes on the secondary. What you think about the secondary?
I like Nicarium Richardson, their corner, who's really good. Their other guys are solid football players. And the thing that's good about them is they're all good tacklers. They're pretty good tacklers. I really like Nathaniel Watson, their linebacker, and Jet Johnson, their other linebackers. I think they may be the best two players on their defense, really.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, I agree with that. I think that on defense they should be a solid team. And again, we'll see if we can all play together. They do play in that SEC, so we'll definitely see because
they do. I mean, that's really the worst thing about it. Like again, you play a 3-5 defense, 3-3-5 defense, and then you play against teams that are more talented than you. That's where you can run into problems.
definitely. So let's get to their schedule real quick, right? And they'll be home for the first 3 games of the season, playing against SC Louisiana, Southeast Louisiana, Arizona, and LSU. They'll be away at South Carolina. They'll be home for the next 2 games versus Alabama and West Michigan. They'll be away for the next 2 games versus Arkansas and Auburn. They'll be home versus Kentucky, away for Texas A&M, and then they'll be home for the next 2 games after that versus Southern Miss and Ole Miss. So another team with 1, 2, 3, 4, only 4 away games. Very interesting. 4 games away. So that's going to be very interesting. They only have a few away games. The good thing is that I think the toughest games, outside of maybe 2 other ones, they're going to be home. So obviously LSU, Alabama. So what's your overall think of this? The overall thought of this roster this
schedule kind of plays with them a little bit, where I think they'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's still a tough schedule though, Jerome. I think that honestly, they could be a good solid team and still only win 7 or 8 games.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to play Alabama, at Arkansas, at Auburn, LSU. The funny thing is the games where they play at home are the tougher teams.
Yeah.
I don't understand why do they only have 4 away games next year?
I don't know. It's a couple of teams that are like that this year. It's really weird.
I don't get that either. But I mean, the first 2 games, Arizona, Southeast Louisiana, they should win those games.
Yeah.
Then they play LSU out at South Carolina, Alabama.
That's a tough 3 games.
Tough 3 games, man.
That's a really tough 3
games. Again, the worst team you play there is South Carolina, and you play them away.
Yep.
The killer.
Yep.
And then you play Western Michigan, you should beat. Arkansas is not a great team, but they're another team who scores points. And you're going to play at Arkansas, then at Auburn. Auburn's not a good team. So they could beat Auburn.
Yeah.
But again, it's away. Kentucky, they should beat. Texas A&M's a loaded team. Athletically is a loaded team. I don't know if they could beat them. Southern Miss, again, they could beat them. Ole Miss are both rivalry games, though.
Yeah.
That's the tough thing about it.
Yeah, they're home both for the rivalry games, so that can be the plus.
That is a good thing for them.
That is crazy to do 2 rivalry games in a row, though.
Yeah, that is weird.
And you know how those rivalry games are. They're the teams that know you the best. So
yes, I would have rather played one of them teams early and played like LSU later.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I think you're right, Ray. About
I see 7 wins.
Maybe 8 wins.
Man.
It could go down to 6. I can't think it go lower than 6 or higher than 8. So I'm gonna stay in that kind of range right there with you, Ray.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk about our next team, the team that I'm always constantly cursing up this year or every year is the Utah Utes. The Utah Utes. Last year being 10-4, a very, very, very good season for these guys. Led by their quarterback Cameron Rising, a guy that I think is going to be a very solid quarterback for these guys. A guy that I think can, possibly go to the NFL in maybe mid to late rounds. That can be a solid guy for a team in the future. Let's talk about him, Ray. What do you think about this quarterback position for the Utah?
Rising showed a lot of promise the last year and a half. We'll see. I mean, I think He has a lot of good things going for him.
Yeah.
Whittingham's been there for a long time, 18
Mhm.
years. He's a very good coach. Imagine how good they'd be if you didn't jinx him every other week.
It's my fault. It's my fault. I take the blame. I'll take the blame.
Yeah, but I mean, again, they have Devon Vale, who's a good wide receiver.
Mhm.
Cameron Rising's a good football player.
Yes.
Grant Keith, their tight end, is a way underrated player.
Mhm.
Good, solid offensive line. Michael Hukafisi. That's a tough name for me to say. I had to write it twice because I had to put it in parentheses so I could try to say it. Latoa Simi is their left tackle. Keaton
Yeah.
Bills is their left guard. Good, solid offensive line. I like Utah. I think they're going to be – honestly, I haven't looked at their schedule yet, but I think 10, 11 wins is not out of reach. 12 wins is not out of reach.
Yeah. No, I agree.
They're a good roster.
Very solid offense. Offensive line looking very solid. I think their offensive line is actually a lot very much underrated than a lot of people were talking about them. That they
And,
have
and the good thing about it is they're good at left guard and tackle and right
Mhm.
guard. That gives you a lot of things you can do in the run game with good
Definitely.
guard play and a good solid left tackle.
Yep.
I like their roster. I think Utah's a good team. Just
No,
got to
I
get
agree.
you to West.
Micah, Micah Bernard as the running back is going to be a really good, solid guy for them. Chris Curry is going to be in a rotation with them as well. I think last year they had a really good tandem with the kid that just went to Buffalo, Dalton Kincaid, and
Yeah,
Brant Clue. So
yeah.
Brent's going to be their number one tight end now. We're going to definitely see him a lot more. I think he was a really solid guy, but he was the better of the blockers other than two. So I think that's
I like him. I don't think he's going to be a good athletic slot receiver. He's
correct.
not really a tight end. Tooth is a better tight end. So
Yeah. So with him coming back from his injury, that's going to be very interesting to see how he kind of take that reins and be their number one tight end for them. I think
I think he'll help out in the run game. I do.
100%.
I think
100%.
Dalton Kincaid, he tried to block. I'll give him
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, Ray wasn't too high on Kincaid as far as the blocking.
Athletically,
Ray likes his blocking tight ends.
He's a version of Mike Gesicki.
Yeah. So that's funny. They both went to the same conference too. Oh man, but yeah. So offensively, I think this is going to be a really good, solid offense. But let's talk about the defense, Ray. Lost a couple of pieces there. What do you think about their defense this year?
Still, Jonah Ellis, Junior Tefunu,
Mm-hmm.
Akia Vimai, good defensive line, good solid linebackers. I like Herm Reed a lot, very much. Good cornerback, Jatavius Broughton, good football player. Cole Bishop is a safety. I think their defense is where they win games usually, to be honest.
And it's almost always like that every year. I like that you talked about Jatavius Britton because he probably one of the best corners that they had in a while. I really like him. He's going to be a solid guy. Nice size to him. 5'11", 190. I think his weight is actually more than that now.
I think what I like about him most, Jerome, is he's got really long arms.
Yeah, no, he does.
A nice football player. I mean, he's a good willing tackler, and you don't always see that in corners. So
yeah, definitely. Then you got Mike Battle on the opposite side of him, another good senior for these guys. I think this team always thrives with their secondary and their linebackers. And they got some guys up front as well that can really contribute and be as well.
Again, Ellis Stefanu and Vimahe, them guys are players, man.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like Utah players, which means they're big, heavy-handed guys that just like to shut down the run.
Yep.
100%. Good football players.
Yeah. So, well, I like this defense. I think they're going to be a good, solid team again. I don't want to make any predictions, but I think they're gonna be good. Let's look at their schedule. I'm scared to talk for it. No,
Whatever Jerome says, go the other way.
anyway,
You want me to just predict this one, then?
yeah. So I'm not gonna say anything, but they were 10-4 last year. This year they have a pretty good schedule, so we'll see how they're fair. But they're gonna start the year off at home versus Florida. They're gonna be at Baylor. The next game, the following game, they'll be at Webster State. Sorry, they'll be home at Webster State. They'll also be home at UCLA. They'll be away for Oregon State, a rivalry game there. They'll be home for Cal, away for USC, home for Oregon and Arizona State, away for Washington and Arizona, and then finishing the year at home versus Colorado. So, Ray, with the schedule, how it looks here, and again, this is not. I don't think this is an easy schedule, but what do you think about this?
I don't see where they don't win at least 9 or 10 games.
Mm.
I don't. I mean, at Washington, at USC, at Oregon State are big games for them.
Yes.
The games where they won't be favored to win.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, again, but if they'll beat Arizona. I know it's at Arizona, but Arizona's not very good, so that doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they'll beat up on Arizona. Colorado by then could be a different game. You don't know what they're going to be.
You've been pointing out Colorado a lot this offseason, right?
You don't know what they're going to be yet, man. You just don't.
Yeah.
You don't really. With Dion coming in there, man,
Mm-hmm.
the guy he's infectious.
Mm-hmm.
He brings life into things. That's what I like the most about him. Even though I couldn't stand him half the time as a player because he talked too much, I do see the personality that people like being around him.
Yeah.
So that's what I want my coach to be. I want more than anything else. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know I am an older guy and I like disciplinarian coaches. I do. But I do understand in today's football, these guys want to have fun.
Yeah.
So if you're a guy like Dion who wants to have fun,
Mm-hmm.
the good thing about Dion, having fun means winning.
Look good, play good. Look good,
Right.
play good. There you go.
Right, exactly. Look good, play good, be good. Right.
Yeah.
So, again, you don't know what Colorado's going to look like.
Definitely.
Right now, I would say it's Utah's game because I think they're a better team.
Mm-hmm.
But by then, is Colorado going one way and Utah's going maybe the other way? Mm-hmm. The only thing I don't think the reason why I don't think Utah will have would at Washington is a fairly tough game.
Yeah.
They're a better team than Washington, but it's an away game.
Mm-hmm.
The other game is the USC game, but that game's in the middle of the season. I don't think if they lose the USC, no matter what the score is, I don't think it hurts them that far down the road.
I agree.
I mean, if they were playing, say they were playing at at Washington, at USC, at Arizona, Colorado, then I'd be by the end of that stretch, maybe Colorado just feast on you because you're a little beat up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But right now, we don't know what Colorado's going to be.
I think this is one of those schedules where you have to beat out that first game convincingly. I think that them playing Florida, I think that's a really good game for them. I think they can win that game, but I think that if you can, and I'm not saying them out or anything like that, but make it a convincing win against a Florida team that has some guys over there as well.
That's a great point.
Make it a convincing win, and then you go on this run all the way to maybe Oregon State, who's a rival game. Then 2 weeks after that, you got USC, and if you can come out of that with undefeated and only lose to USC, because it would be a hard task to win that game. I don't think they can't win that game. It's going to be a hard game because USC looking really good right now.
Caleb Williams play against Rising. It's going to be a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's going to be a really good game.
That could be a high scoring game.
It really could. It really, really could. So if you can be undefeated from there, and especially if you can be a convincing win against Florida and just win all the rest of the games and get to USC, I can see Utah fans looking and feeling really good about that game going into that game. But we'll have to see how they do against Florida. Again, it has to be a convincing one, not a blowout. It don't have to be a blowout, but a game where they
30
win.
to, 30 to 17.
Yeah, there you go. Something like that.
24-14. 24-13.
There you go.
Not a blowout, but a game where there really was no doubt that you were going to win the game.
Correct.
I agree. I was just saying that's a great point, dude. You want to come out against Florida and play good football, and I think Rison's going to have a really good year this year.
I really like Rison as well.
I think he's going to be really good, man. I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, if he could stay healthy, because he was getting injured a little bit at the end of the season last year, and I think that kind of like derailed them a little bit. That's why you see that 10-4 type of season last year. If he can stay healthy, he's gonna be somebody. And
now that you don't have a revolving door at tight end, maybe they'll block a little bit.
Ray always taking them jabs.
I just think that, like, if you watch them try to run the ball last year, and I know Dalton Kincaid was too good of a player to take off the field. I get that. Yeah. And plus, if he can run a seam route, that can help out your run game a little bit too.
Yeah.
But not if he's just going to stand there while guys run by him.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So we'll definitely see, man. I like Brent, so I think that's going to be.
I think they're going to be a good team. I think they're going to have a good season. I think finding a little bit more balance and a better running game could do them a lot of good. I know I say that about almost every team, but I think especially with Utah, because your defense is going to be physical. Mm-hmm. If you can be physical up front and run the ball a little bit more, maybe you don't lose the close games that you lost last year.
I agree. That's a good point, Ray. All right. Again, I'm not making a prediction. I'm just staying away from it. So let's get to our last and final team, FSU. FSU finished the year at a surprising 10-3 last year, right? A team that I thought was a little up and down a couple of years ago, led by Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis actually had some very, very exciting games last year. I think it was the one. Who did it beat? LSU. It was.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan Travis put that team on his back. I mean, that was such a fun game. So we'll definitely see how he does and fares this year. So overall, Ray, what do you think about this team?
I like their offense. I like Travis. I think that they're Jimmy Wilson, their wide receiver, Trey Benson, their running back. They have a good offense. Their offensive line is pretty good. Robert Scott at left tackle, Maurice Smith at center, both good football players. Again, I think Florida State is that team that they have to play up to their potential.
Yeah.
Last year they did. They did a way better job last year than they have. But if you look at last year, they were coming off a really nice, and then they played down to Wake Forest.
Yep.
I mean, like it's always a thing with. Again, I'm not complaining about 11-2 season,
mm-hmm.
but I mean you can't. I mean, but you were 6-2 in your conference because you lost that stupid game. I just think again, Florida State's a good team.
Yeah.
Can they ever be elite like they used to be? I'm starting to have my questions about that.
Debatable. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with you, Ray. This team, they've been such a hot and cold team last few years. And and like you said, they go in and then you're just like, man, they're rolling, man. They're looking good, and then they lose like some weird games, and you're just like, huh? So I think that if they can stay a little bit more consistent, they could be a team to, push for the playoffs for sure.
I mean, I like the fact that they beat Miami pretty handily last year. Mm-hmm. They beat Florida pretty convincingly by 8 points, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I just think that, like, again, they're Florida State. They're good. They're athletic. We talked about their offense. Jared Verse, their defensive end. Fabian Lovett Sr., their defensive tackle. These guys are difference makers.
Yeah,
they really are. This is a really athletic team.
Mm-hmm.
I like Mike Norvell, their coach.
Yeah.
He had a good year last year. Up until then, he's not done what they thought he was going to do. This is a big year for him and them.
I
If
agree.
they can build on last year and have a similar record or maybe improve upon it, I mean, it's hard to improve on it 11-2, man. And let's face it. I mean, the only teams they lost to last year, besides Wake Forest, was Clemson. So it's Clemson. So you're like, okay, and they lost to Clemson. It was only a 6-point game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good. It's not a. There's never a good loss, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like they lost by 15 or 2 touchdowns or 3 scores. It was a close game that could have won. Again, I hate to go back to the Wake Forest game. That's a game you shouldn't have lost, though.
No,
But I just Mike Norvell again. This is a big year for him and this program. If they could build on last year and have a similar type season, honestly, Jerome, if they can go, I haven't really looked at their schedule that much.
Mm-hmm.
Say they only lose next year, they play Clemson again. Say they only lose to Clemson, or they beat Clemson, and maybe they lose to LSU, even though it's the first game of the season.
Yeah.
And then they go undefeated after that. You could argue they're a playoff team.
Yeah.
They do all that because they play Miami, they play Florida, they play Pitt, they play Syracuse. Now these aren't like they play Boston College. They're not like powerhouse teams, but they have their games against Clemson and LSU and Miami and Florida. So they play upper level teams too. It's a good schedule. Again, it's going to be big for them to get out. The LSU game is I don't know where that game is though. I guess it's
so let me see.
Versus LSU. Hold on.
LSU. So yeah, they're starting LSU at home. It's
Orlando
for home, but they're going to be at the Camping World Stadium. Not sure where that's at.
It says Orlando, Florida on my schedule.
Yeah, wherever the Camping World Skate Stadium is. I'm going to look it up now. That will be. It is in Florida. Where is that? I don't know. Yeah, it's a neutral site. It's a neutral site. So that's gonna be interesting.
Well, I mean, it's still more of a home game for them.
Yeah. They'll be home.
But, I mean, it's not technically at their stadium, I guess.
Yeah, I never heard of the stadium, but apparently they do a couple of bowl games here. So
again, I think it's a good schedule.
Mm-hmm.
They have some games like again they play at Wake Forest. You can't afford to lose to Wake Forest, though, man.
Yeah. So let me do a rundown of the schedule real quick. Again, like we said last year, 10-3. So they're gonna start the year off at home, quote unquote home, versus LSU. That's a neutral site. They'll be at home versus South Mississippi. They'll be away for the next 2 games versus Boston College and Clemson. They'll be home for the next 3 games versus Virginia Tech, Syracuse, and Duke. They'll be away for Wake Forest, like you said, right? A tough game for them. They'll be away for Pitt. They'll be home for the next 2 games after that, Miami and North Alabama. That's actually a weird game that late in the season, but interesting. Yeah. And then they'll finish off away versus Florida. So what are we thinking about?
I think it's a solid schedule. I don't like the North Alabama game all the way down there.
That's so weird. Like they usually don't have them type of games that late in the season.
You know what I don't like about it, Jerome? Say you roll off. Say you're undefeated. Mm-hmm. Say maybe you lose to LSU, and we're talking about like you're all the way down there. A game against North Alabama is not going to do anything to move you in the polls one way or the other.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's not.
Whoa! If they lose somehow,
well, they're not going to lose. Yeah.
But
if they lose, they don't belong in the top 10. No matter how good they are, if they lose that game, then they're not going to be in the top 5 for sure.
No, I would say just drop the ranking.
Say they go undefeated. They lose 1 game, like I said. Yeah. And most other teams are even like if you're Alabama, Georgia, you may be undefeated, but you're probably more than likely going to have 1 loss by the end of the season. Mm-hmm. A game against North Alabama is not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
Plus-wise. Yeah, if you struggle or, God forbid, you lose, you're done. But you could beat them by 50, and it's not going to matter in the rankings.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
I think that game was scheduled. I would have rather had that game play them October 7th.
I will flip that LSU game in them.
That would be perfect. Even though that would be perfect. Because if you're playing good football and you upset LSU, that's a huge win, man.
Yeah. So just looking at for me, similar to Utah, that LSU game is going to be their tone setter for the season. Just coming in with that game, I think LSU is a lot better than I think most people think.
I'm hoping you're wrong, but I agree.
Yeah. I would say they got Clemson. Clemson's a very good team. We talked about them last week. Being a really good team. Wake Forest could be a team that can sneak up on them. Pitt's a solid team, but I don't think they're gonna do much. Miami's a good team. Again, they should beat them, I think. Florida is the next best team. So I say they got three really good games on their schedule. They got the next best game, which is Wake Forest, and then everything else they should win, I think. So
agreed.
Four teams that you have to look out for. And again, Florida, Wake Forest, Clemson, and LSU.
Like I said, what I like about it though is if you beat Boston College, and Boston College turns out to be a decent team. I know that's a big if.
Yeah.
But then you beat, even though I know Syracuse is not a great team, they had a solid year last year. If you beat them, that's a good win.
They did. Also, Syracuse lost a lot, though. They lost
a
lot.
Lot. They did, but people won't. The people that make the rankings don't know that, dude. All they know is Syracuse, they were decent last year.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless Syracuse is horrible this year. That's all they care about.
Yeah. You're right.
The Miami game, Miami's an athletic, talented roster. We'll see how good they are. But again, that looks good on your resume if you beat Miami, as long as they're not horrible. You know what I mean? So, again, it all comes down to where the ranking has you at where they have you ranked when you get to these games and where those teams are ranked. We all know that, but they're good games. Again, I don't like playing Duke because again, if you beat Duke, you have to beat them by 30 to impress anybody. Yeah. And if you I hate the North Alabama game because again, you know what? Honestly, they can put them first and move everybody down a game. That would be fine. Because then you got a cupcake game that you should probably just steamroll. And then people are like, oh, they played. Oh, that's a bad team. Oh, but they beat them by 50 or 40 or even 35. But it's not a good team if they beat them by 35. But if you beat them by 35 or 40 and you're coming off a game where you struggled a little bit against Miami or Pittsburgh, then people will start doubting you.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't like where the game's scheduled, man.
I don't like that. That's such a weird one.
I know everybody plays those type of games every year. I get that. That's just a weird spot for it.
It's just the placement. Yeah. Like, even if you're not going to have that the first game, because I understand why they had that the first game being the first game, you know. And we talked about this a little bit last year where it was week 0 and there was a lot of like these type of games where they were like cupcake games and this and that. So I see why they, you know, sprinkled in a couple of these kind of games, like the Utah game, you know, versus who Utah was playing again. I forget. But Utah, now this game, you got a couple of really good week 1 games that, you know, will got people, you know, engaged in the first week now. So that's great. I understand it. But if you're going to do that and you're going to have that team the first game, maybe have that cupcake game being the second or third game of the season. I don't like that's insane.
I don't like where that game is. I think Notre Dame has a game like that this year too. Where they don't. I don't really like where they have the game because it's not a great team. It's like if they don't win that game by a lot of points, man, that could really hurt them in the rankings.
Correct.
I mean, I know I should be thinking about the rankings, but let's face it, man. We all think about the rankings. That's all we care about.
The rankings are everything in college football. So I understand.
I just don't understand why you would have a game like that against North Alabama that late in the season. I don't get that at all. Again, we all say like usually those games for good teams are the first couple games.
Yep.
You know, so.
No, definitely. So that's gonna do it for us with our football our team analysis on each team of the college football. And we're going to have a couple more the next couple of weeks. So definitely tune in. We're going to start getting into some of the higher P5 teams coming up for sure. So before we get off, Ray, let's see if you have a rant. What you got for us, man?
I don't really have anything, Drum, except for the heat this summer has been killing me, man. It's killing me.
That's a rant. No, that's a rant. It's
I
hot.
really, I don't mind the hot weather, but man, the humidity has been like crazy. I mean, like there's no air out there.
Yeah.
It's just horrible. I mean, the weather's been really weird here, man.
Mhm.
Rain, like inches of rain in like a few minutes in certain places, and then it doesn't rain again for a week and a half or 2 weeks. It's just,
Yeah.
it's really weird. We had a thing recently where in Lang, like up near like New Hope, Langhorne area,
Okay.
5 people died because they were out driving and it kind of lifted them up and they drowned. It was just like there's
Whoa.
2 kids that got taken from the storm. They still haven't found them.
Whoa. Wow.
So it's just like weather is a funny, fickle thing, man. It really is. I deal with the cold weather. I don't like it. I usually like the hot weather more.
Correct.
This summer has been really, really like wet,
Brutal.
like very humid.
Yeah.
Even like it was only 82 or 83 today, but it felt like it was like 90 or so.
Oh, that's how it is. We're in the 90s down here in Georgia, though. We're in the 90s.
I mean, it was like 83 today because it rained like crazy last night.
Okay.
And then you woke up and like, oh, it's not quite as humid. No, it wasn't quite as humid yet. That's all. And it felt like, you know why? Because it was still like maybe 70 something degrees out.
Yeah.
And then by the time middle of the day, it was like 82 or 83. And literally it felt like it was at 95. It's just crazy.
So definitely, you guys definitely stay safe out there. I know.
Yeah.
I know down here in Georgia, the high school kids are preparing for the season for next month. I think it starts August 15th. I think the season starts for high school down here. So definitely, guys, stay hydrated. Stay safe out there. Do what you need to do. But yeah, definitely look into. Hey, hotter it gets, the better, because it means football season is about to start for us. So I'm excited about it.
Well, the one thing I would say is 38 days away. So like we were saying before the show started, Jerome, a week from one day after we take off next week will be a 1 month, 4 weeks away from the NFL, from the college football season.
Yes.
It's weird though because college football starts August 26th. And the NFL doesn't start until like September 7th.
Yeah.
Really, like
it is usually like that, though. It's like college football starts almost
usually closer than that, though, right?
No, but I don't think so. I think it's like college football starts almost 2 weeks sometimes. Like, like 10 days or something like that. It's like a good 10-day window or something like that.
I don't know about you. Thank you for this, or like it was your idea to ever put me on Twitter, but I will say, even though I don't pay a lot of attention to it, it can be amusing sometimes.
It can. Yes, it definitely can.
People will tend to come after you when there's no physical or really like everything is like over typing or whatever. It's just very weird what people will say. I had a person go to me like talking about how Miami hasn't won a meaningful game in a long time. I'm like, yeah, well, really, nobody in our division except for New England has won a meaningful game in quite a long time. Yeah, and they were like, oh, well, Buffalo this, Buffalo that. Like, when's the last time Buffalo won a meaningful game? I thought they lost the two last playoff games.
Yeah, I think they lost.
Then it turned into, 2 was going to get hurt. And I'm like, oh, so you're rooting for my quarterback to get hurt. See, I thought I would expect that from a Jets fan, but I thought Bills fans were a little bit better than that. And then I said to him, and then Jerome, I do worry about Tua getting hurt. I do. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie about it. But I said well, I understand that Tua could get hurt, and I do worry about that. But at least I don't have to worry about my quarterback too inaccurate to win games, and my wide receiver hating his guts every other week.
Yeah, it's funny. He be looking like Superman at some points of the season. I think he actually had MVP votes last year, or MVP. He had an MVP season going into it, And then like all of a sudden I think he might have got injured or something like that.
No, man, Buffalo is still the best team in my division. I'm
They
not
are.
going to say otherwise until I'm proven that I'm right. Right now,
Yes.
they're the best team in my division. They're one of the top 3 or 4 teams in this conference, without a doubt. They had this year to win a Super Bowl, and if they don't, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
window, that
This
window.
is annoying.
You know what? You know what the killer is, Jerome. And I'm not going to say they were going to win a Super Bowl, but that game 2 years ago against Kansas City, where they had to lead with 13 seconds left, and they didn't win that game. That may have been the best Bills team there's been, man.
That was rough. That was rough.
That may be the best team that they've had, and maybe the best one they will have.
Yeah, that was rough.
But again, I'm not rooting for them to lose.
There you are.
No,
you are.
I just think it's gonna be funny. Like, if they don't win this year, if they bail out again, Stephon Diggs is gonna go crazy this time, right?
Yeah,
You know it.
100%.
Because you mean wrong. Is he probably open as much as he thinks he is? He probably is. But you do have to give him more other people.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. So,
the
Diggs dynamic this year is going to be interesting. They do have another receiver in Dalton Kincaid, at least, maybe. I really like their.
I like him because I work with a guy who's a Bills fan, and I told him, I'll say, yo, man, I don't know how much money you guys have, but I'm like, Mike Gesicki can help you out. He's not going to do anything with running the ball. He's not going to help you run the ball. But what he can do is take the top off your defense from a slot guy and a vertical threat from the sling, and run a seam route. He could do that for you. And they were smart. We're not going to pay him $11 million, $9 million. We'll draft the same guy. And they basically drafted Dalton Kincaid, who's the same guy. So good for him. Now, he will have to learn before he get on the field, but he's the one guy that Buffalo added to their offense, and the running back. I mean, wrong. Buffalo, they added
a couple of guys on running back, did they?
They did. They signed the New England guy from Alabama. Right now, his name's escaped me, but he's good. And they added Dalton Kincaid, who I like. I think that their offense is a little better than it was last year.
Yeah.
But it's all going to come down to, can their defense stop Cincinnati or Kansas City? Because right now they haven't been able to do it.
Yeah. I agree. So,
I mean, Cincinnati basically steamrolled them last year. That was
Cincinnati's one of those teams, man. They're off that offense.
The most surprising game of the playoffs last year, 27-10. That surprised me.
Yeah.
It did. It surprised me. Like, I don't understand. Like, and Stephon Diggs went crazy in that game. But if I was Stephon Diggs, I wouldn't have been yelling at my quarterback. I don't know, they're yelling at my defensive coordinator and some of them defense because, what are we doing out there? Yeah. They've scored on 5 straight drives. Are you going to stop anything?
Yeah.
That's what I'd have been yelling at. But again, I don't want to be called I'm not a team player, I want to be yelling at my quarterback, though. The quarterback that basically, let's face it, him and Stephon Diggs carry that team on their back last year.
They did.
And I understand that, dude, you'll never hear me say nothing about Stephon Diggs' talent. The guy's a tremendous football player. Mm-hmm. But Josh Allen has basically carried that team on his back.
Yeah.
I mean, even before he got there, Diggs, he was carrying that offense on his back, dude.
Yeah, he was.
I'm not ever going to bash Josh Allen because the guy's tremendously talented. Does he miss some short passes every once in a while? But he throws a nice deep ball, man.
Yeah, he does. And hopefully he don't do this as much. But last year he was running his ass off. So
you know what? That's the problem, though, Jerome. You know what? I don't care if you're Lamar Jackson, 215, 220. Yeah, 215, 220, whatever he is, maybe even 230 now. Or if you're Josh Allen and you're 6'4", 6'5", 260. Eventually you get hit hard enough, man. You're not going to get back up.
Yeah.
You got to stop. Honestly, Jerome, to me, if Buffalo wants to win, they have to balance out their offense a little bit. And if that means running the ball a little more, then that's what they got to do.
Yeah. I think they might have to, though. They might have to.
They have to. You can't keep running your quarterback 15 times a game, 10 times a game.
Yeah.
If you do, eventually because then if you take that's the problem with him. He does make really nice deep throws, and a lot of times they're off broken plays.
Yeah.
So you don't want that even.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens if you take his mobility from him? That's my thing. I don't care who you are, and this is where Jalen Hurts. I'll be the first one to admit it. He's been better than I thought he was going to be, at making them decisions from the pocket and getting the ball out quicker than I thought he could.
I agree.
I didn't see him do it. He did do it better at Oklahoma, but at Alabama, he held the ball too much.
Correct.
So, so he's gotten better, but he's different. I honestly, even the Eagles, I would not let him run the ball as much as he did last year.
I agree.
No, he's a dynamic runner. Let's make that the last option, not the second or third option, or the fourth option. That's all I'm saying. Because if you don't have a good starting quarterback, man, you're not going to win.
So hopefully the Eagles do good. But anyway, that's going to do it for us today, guys. Actually, see, I got the emblem on me. That's going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you all for checking us out. We got a couple of comments in here real quick before we go. We got Facebook users saying, yo, my guys. What's up, guys? Thank you so much. I'm not 100% sure who you are, but thank you for checking us in. You're a little late. It's okay. But if you like this podcast, definitely go hit us up on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to that real quick, guys. That will definitely support and help us. Definitely share this. If you can't watch it on live, like Facebook user there, you can come in and look at the videos later on, and we talk about all college football here, draft stuff, things like that on this podcast, RPO College Football Podcast. We here every Wednesday as we can. Sometimes we, miss some days, and we make it up on Thursday and Fridays, whatever. But usually Wednesdays around 7:00 Eastern time. So definitely come in, lock in. I think it's going to be a great season for college football. It's going to be very fun. It's going to be very exciting. A lot of different pieces. So definitely right where Ray is, right down there at the QR code. Definitely hit that. Like and subscribe. Go to our YouTube channel, or go to our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that. We are on Threads as well, so go follow us on there as well. We are definitely, covering a lot of good players that are coming to college, that are getting recruited as well. So you can find all that on our YouTube, Instagram, Twitter as well. So again, thank you guys for checking us out. We appreciate y'all. I hope you have a great rest of your summer. I know a lot of people are on vacation right now, so stay safe out there. Beat the heat. Stay hydrated, stay well, and we definitely will see you at the football season. Next week we'll be talking about some great teams, so definitely stay locked in and check us out next week. So again, my name is Jerome Jones. This is Ray Roberts right over here. Thank you guys so much, and we see you in the next one. Peace.